Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about one of the most stubborn ideas in modern education. It's a concept that has totally shaped classrooms, corporate training, and probably the way you think about yourself as a learner. But what if the whole thing is just wrong?
I mean, come on. You've answered this question before, right? A teacher probably gave you a quiz, or maybe you took one online. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. VAK. We've been told for decades that we each have this specific style, that our brain is just wired one way. And honestly, it feels right. It feels true. Well, here's the plot twist. That central promise, the whole idea that if a teacher tailors their lesson to your specific style, you'll learn better, it's a myth. It's just not true. Despite how popular it is, decades of really solid scientific research have found zero evidence to back it up. So, how did we all fall for this? To really get it, we have to go back and see how this incredibly sticky idea got started in the first place. It's a classic story, really, of good intentions running into a world that was just desperate for a simple answer to a really complicated problem. So, here's the core claim of the theory. We have these fixed learning types. The most famous one, of course, is VAK. It neatly sorts everyone into one of three buckets. Visual learners get it by seeing, auditory by hearing, and kinesthetic by, doing. It's such a clean, tidy system that promises to unlock everyone's potential. And you have to remember, this idea didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Back in the 70s and 80s, there was this huge pushback against rigid, boring, one-size-fits-all teaching. People wanted to treat students as individuals, and boom, along comes learning styles, which felt like the perfect solution. It spread like wildfire, not from serious academic labs, but through teacher workshops and corporate seminars. But while this idea was taking over classrooms and offices, actual researchers in psychology and neuroscience started to, test it. And what they found, well, it was not what everybody wanted to hear. And this, right here, is the absolute key to understanding the whole mess. Of course, we all have preferences. That's real. I might prefer to watch a video, you might prefer to listen to a podcast. Nobody is denying that. The myth, the part that science just completely tears apart, is the claim that if you cater to my preference, I will actually learn better. That connection, that cause and effect, is what's missing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. After literally hundreds of studies, meta-analyses, and huge reviews were designed specifically to find evidence for this matching idea, the result has always been the same. A big, fat nothing. There is simply no credible scientific proof that matching your teaching method to someone's supposed learning style helps them learn a thing. So it turns out the theory was asking the completely wrong question all along. The question isn't, what's the student's style? The right question is, what's the best way to teach this specific material? I mean, think about it. How are you going to learn the anatomy of the brain without visuals? How can you possibly learn to pronounce French without hearing it? It's the content that dictates the format, not the person. And the final nail in the coffin for learning styles really came from neuroscience. As our technology got better and we could actually see the brain in action, we realized, our brains just don't work that way at all. See, your brain isn't this collection of separate little workers in different departments. It's a deeply interconnected, super powerful machine. When you're learning something new, you're firing on all cylinders, using visual, auditory, and other senses all at the same time. There isn't a visual circuit that just shuts down when you listen to something. In fact, the best learners are the ones who are great at pulling in information from all different sources and switching up their strategy depending on what they're trying to do. So this brings us to the really fascinating part. If the science is so crystal clear that this is a myth, why is it so ridiculously resilient? I mean, why is it still being taught in so many places today? Well, the answer is all about psychology. Our brains love simple labels way more than they love complex reality. It's just an easy, convenient story. For teachers, it feels like you're personalizing lessons and showing you care, and maybe most importantly, it gives everyone a simple, blameless excuse when learning gets hard. It's so much easier to say, oh, this just isn't my learning style, than it is to face the fact that maybe you need to try harder or that the subject is just difficult. It's comforting. It puts the messy world of learning into these neat little boxes. Now, to be fair, it wasn't all bad. The whole movement did get educators talking more about different ways of teaching, and it helped challenge that old rigid model. But the damage has been real. It's put students in boxes. It's encouraged them to avoid their weaknesses instead of working on them. It literally taught people to say, I'm a visual learner, so I can't learn that way, which is just a terrible, self-limiting belief to have.
Okay, so if we're going to ditch the whole idea of fixed learning styles, what do we replace it with? Well, the good news is cognitive science gives us a really clear roadmap, pointing to strategies that are actually proven to work for pretty much everyone.
So here they are, the real pillars of effective learning. First, like we said, match the teaching style to the content. It's that simple. Second, use active retrieval. Don't just reread your notes, actually quiz yourself. Force your brain to pull the information out. Third, get clear, specific feedback so you know what you're doing right and what you need to fix. And finally, space out your practice. Cramming is terrible for long-term memory. Look, these methods aren't as cute as a 3-letter label, but they're the ones that actually work.
At the end of the day, the theory of learning styles is just a perfect example of how a really satisfying story can beat complex science every time. It didn't stick around because it was true. It stuck around because it felt good. It fulfilled this deep human need we have for simple answers and neat categories in a world that's often really messy and complicated.
And that kind of leaves us with a bigger question, doesn't it? The story of learning styles is a huge reminder that even the ideas we all accept as totally obvious can be completely wrong. It really makes you wonder, what other things that we just take for granted in our own lives? What other obvious truths might not hold up if we really took a closer look? What should we question next?